My fiancée vanished the night before our wedding. Then I saw her face on the news. Let me take you back to the night everything in my life completely fell apart. It was supposed to be the happiest week of my life. I was 2 days away from marrying the woman I'd loved since college, Emily. She was smart, funny, had this dorky little laugh she'd do when she was nervous, and I swear to God, when she smiled, everything just felt right. We had it all planned out. The venue was booked, guests confirmed. My best friend Jake flying in from Seattle to be my best man. The dress was custom made. Everything was set. All we had to do was get through the rehearsal dinner. That's when it started. Emily was off. I noticed it right away. She barely touched her food. Her hands were shaking. She gave her toast. When I pulled her aside and asked if something was wrong, she forced a smile and said, "Just nerves." I wanted to believe her. I did believe her, but something in her eyes felt like a goodbye. That night, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "I love you. No matter what happens tomorrow, I love you." I laughed it off. I thought it was just pre-wedding anxiety. I wish I had paid more attention. Because the next morning, she was gone. I woke up to 12 missed calls from her mom, from my sister, from the venue coordinator. Emily didn't come home. She didn't show up to the salon for her bridal prep. No one had heard from her since the rehearsal dinner. I checked her location, turned off. Her phone, straight to voicemail. I drove to her apartment. The door was locked. Everything looked normal, except her suitcase was gone. Not the fancy one she packed for our honeymoon in Greece. No, the old duffel bag she hadn't used since college. I went to the police. They told me she's an adult and could have left on her own. But I knew something was wrong, so I started looking into things myself. I checked her social media, nothing new. But then I noticed she deleted some of her old posts. Not all of them, just a few. Random selfies. A picture of us at the lake house. Gone. I didn't understand what was happening. I mean, who deletes their engagement photos 2 days before the wedding? Then I remembered something. A week ago, Emily got a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. She opened it alone and never told me what it said. I only saw her face after reading it, white as a ghost. When I asked, she just said, "Wrong address." But she held on to it. Slipped it into her purse like it was a bomb she didn't know how to defuse. So I tore the apartment apart looking for it. And after an hour of searching, I found it. Tucked deep in her sock drawer, behind a framed photo of us. It wasn't long. Just a few lines. "You thought you could run, but I never stopped watching. You have 3 days to tell him the truth, or I will." No name, no context, just that. I sat there staring at it, heart pounding. Who was this from? What was Emily hiding? I called her again. Nothing. I called Jake. I don't even know why, I just needed someone to talk to. But he didn't answer either. I didn't think much of it at first. He just landed the night before. Maybe he was still jet-lagged. But then something else hit me. Something that made my skin crawl. Jake hadn't shown up to the rehearsal dinner either. And Emily never asked about him. Not once. It was like they both vanished from my life at the same time. And then, just as I was about to lose my mind, my phone buzzed. It was a news alert. I opened it, and my blood turned to ice. Unidentified woman found unconscious near train tracks. Authorities suspect foul play. I clicked the article. No name, no ID, but the grainy photo at the bottom. Her face was bruised and barely recognizable. But it was Emily. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. I just sat there staring at that article, at the blurry image of her swollen face, trying to convince myself it wasn't Emily. But deep down, I knew. That was her. I raced to the hospital listed in the article. It was nearly 2 hours away. Why the hell was she there? She had no reason to be near that town. No friends. No family. No job interviews. Nothing. The drive felt like a blur. My thoughts were spiraling. Was she attacked? Was someone following her? Was this about the letter? When I finally got to the ER, they made me wait. Of course they did. No one just walks into an ICU room. I tried to explain I was her fiancé. I even showed them pictures. But she didn't have ID on her when they found her. and they couldn't confirm anything. I waited for 3 hours in that cold, white-tiled waiting room, watching the clock tick like it was mocking me. Finally, a nurse came out. She looked tired, pale. She asked me to follow her. My stomach twisted with every step down that hallway. Then I saw her, lying there, barely conscious, hooked up to tubes. Bruises on her arms, a cut above her brow, a bandage over her ribs. But it was her. I ran to her bedside, tears in my eyes, whispering her name over and over. She blinked slowly. Her lips moved. Barely a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." That's what she said. Not, "I missed you." Not, "I'm sorry." Not even, "I love you." You shouldn't be here. I didn't understand. I grabbed her hand and told her I'd fix everything. I begged her to tell me what happened. Who did this to her? What was going on? But she just looked at me with these hollow eyes, like something had broken inside her. I told him no, she mumbled. I told him I wasn't going to run anymore. Who, Emily? Who are you talking about? She squeezed my hand, so tight it hurt, and whispered, "You have to go. You're not safe either." Right then, a nurse rushed in and told me she needed rest. I was pushed out of the room like I was the problem. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My fiancée was in the hospital. She had vanished without a trace. Now she was warning me that I wasn't safe. None of it made sense. Until I got a text at 3:12 a.m. Block number. I told her not to lie to you. I stared at the screen, my heart racing. Then another message came through. Since she couldn't be honest, maybe I should be. Ask Jake what happened in Chicago. I froze. Chicago? That's where Emily went for a conference 6 months ago. She was gone for 4 days. She called every night. Said she missed me. Told me she was exhausted from meetings. Jake wasn't even there. At least, I thought he wasn't. I scrolled through my messages with him, checking dates. That week, he had told me he was in LA for work. Sent me a photo of palm trees and his laptop. Now I wasn't sure what to believe. I tried calling Jake again, straight to voicemail. Then I remembered something chilling. The day after Emily came back from that Chicago trip, she cried in the shower. I thought it was just stress from work. She said she just needed to breathe. Now I'm starting to think she was hiding a secret. And suddenly, all the little things made sense. The way Jake avoided looking at her whenever we all hung out. How Emily always changed the subject when Chicago came up. The way she flinched when she saw his name pop up on my phone. I needed answers, so I did something I probably shouldn't have. I broke into Jake's Airbnb. Jake had rented a place just a few miles from my apartment, some modern-looking Airbnb in a quiet neighborhood. At first, I was just planning to knock, talk to him, ask questions. But after everything that had happened, the note, the hospital, Emily's warning, that anonymous text, I wasn't taking any chances. The side door was cracked. I don't even think he locked it. Or maybe someone wanted me to find what I did. The house was dark, too quiet. I walked in slow, calling out his name. No answer. There was a half-eaten sandwich on the table. His phone charger plugged in by the couch. His laptop still open, screensaver bouncing around. But no Jake. That's when I saw it. An envelope, sitting dead center on the table. My name written on the front in Jake's handwriting. I picked it up, heart racing. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. I didn't know what else to do. I told her to come clean, but she wouldn't. If you're reading this, it means everything's gone to hell. I'm sorry, man. That's all it said. I looked at the flash drive, hand shaking. I knew I shouldn't watch it, but I had to. I plugged it into Jake's laptop. There was just one video file. It opened to a shaky camera view, like a hidden phone camera. The timestamp was from 6 months ago, during Emily's work conference in Chicago. And what I saw next made my stomach turn. There she was, Emily, sitting across from Jake in a dim hotel room. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Jake's voice, barely above a whisper. "This isn't right. He's my best friend." Emily sobbed into her hands. "I didn't mean for this to happen." He reached for her hand. "Then tell him. He deserves to know." She pulled away. He'll never forgive me. And I can't lose him. Not like this. Jake stood up and paced. Emily, you're pregnant. It's not like you can just bury this. My heart stopped. Pregnant? She was pregnant. My ears were ringing. I could barely process what I was hearing. Jake sat back down. So what, you're just going to marry him and pretend it's his kid? She didn't say anything. She just cried harder. Then she looked up and whispered the part that broke me. I wish it was his. I paused the video. My legs gave out and I collapsed onto the floor. Everything we'd built, our plans, our vows, our future, was based on a lie. And Jake, my best man, had been part of it all along. And now she was in a hospital, bruised and broken, telling me I wasn't safe. Suddenly, the pieces started clicking. She was going to come clean. Maybe that's what the letter was about. Someone found out about Chicago. Maybe even about the pregnancy. And they wanted her to confess. But she didn't. And someone made her pay for it. And Jake? He knew. Maybe that's why he vanished. Maybe someone came for him, too. I tried calling him again. Straight to voicemail. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw his laptop screen shift. A notification popped up. New email, a subject. Too late. I clicked it. No text. No sender info. Just an attachment. A photo. My blood turned to ice. It was Jake, tied to a chair. Blood on his shirt. And behind him was a face I recognized. It wasn't Emily. It wasn't someone from her family. It was a man from a photo I'd seen once before. A framed picture in Emily's childhood home. Her older brother, Daniel. The one she told me died in a car crash when she was 12. Except he wasn't dead. And he looked furious. The photo burned into my mind. Jake, tied up and bloodied. Behind him, Daniel. Her dead brother, standing tall, his face twisted in anger. I couldn't breathe. The world around me felt unreal. The email came with no explanation, no context, just that picture. What the hell was happening? I spent the next hour pacing, my mind running wild. I called the police again, but how could I explain any of this? How could I tell them that my fiancée was pregnant with someone else's child, that her dead brother was alive, and that he just kidnapped my best friend? I knew I had to find Emily. But where could she be? Then, as if the universe was mocking me, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Come to the old cabin. Alone. You know where it is. My heart raced. The old cabin. I'd been there with Emily once, before we were even engaged. It was this tiny, secluded place up in the woods, where we spent a weekend pretending the world didn't exist. It was our secret spot, our place. But it wasn't just a cabin. It was where Emily's family had always gone to hide, away from everything and everyone. That's when I realized I wasn't just being warned. I was being lured, and I had no choice but to go. I grabbed my keys, slammed the door behind me, and sped out of the house. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The whole time I kept thinking, what the hell did I get myself into? Why didn't I see this coming? As I drove, my mind replayed every conversation with Emily, every memory we'd shared, the way she laughed, the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. How could I have been so blind? By the time I reached the cabin, it was already dark. The trees surrounding the cabin were so thick it felt like the forest was closing in on me. The air was damp cold, and the only sound was the crunch of leaves under my boots. I stepped inside cautiously. The cabin was just as I remembered it, rustic, empty, and somehow comforting. Except now, the silence felt suffocating. I called out Emily's name. Nothing. I walked deeper into the cabin, checking each room, but I knew I wasn't alone. I could feel it. Someone was watching me. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then went out completely. I froze. Then a voice, cold and distant, cut through the dark. You should have stayed away, man. It was Jake. His voice, muffled. I couldn't see him, but I knew it was him. I turned on the flashlight on my phone, sweeping the room. And that's when I saw them. Tied to a chair in the center of the room was Emily. Her hair was disheveled, her face bruised. Her eyes were wide open, terrified. And standing over her, Daniel, her brother, alive. He was smirking, like he'd been waiting for me. I see you've met my little sister, Daniel said, his voice dripping with malice. Daniel, you're alive? I choked out, still in shock. He let out a short, humorless laugh. You really think Emily's life has been some fairy tale, huh? You don't know the half of it. None of you do. Couldn't move. My body was frozen in place, but my mind was racing. Emily had been keeping this secret for years. But why hadn't she told me? Why had she let me believe in a life that wasn't real? Daniel took a step toward me, eyes burning with something I couldn't quite place. I've been watching you, man, he said, his voice low. Watching her. Watching both of you. Everything's been a game, and you've been the pawn. But not anymore. Why now? I asked, barely able to speak. Daniel smiled, slow and sinister. Because it's time for Emily to choose. Time for her to stop running. I glanced at Emily, who was trembling in the chair. She was barely holding it together. Please don't, she whispered. Just go. Leave. But it was too late. Daniel snapped his fingers, and two men stepped out of the shadows. Men I didn't recognize. Take him out, Daniel ordered. Before I could react, one of the men grabbed me by the arm, dragging me backward toward the door. But just as they were about to shove me outside, I heard a scream. It was Emily. She struggled against her restraints, her voice desperate. You don't have to do this. Don't let him control you. I froze. Emily was pleading with me. She was begging me to understand. But what the hell was happening? Why was she still tied up? Why wasn't she running? And then in that split second, it hit me. This wasn't about me. It wasn't about her. This was about control. Power. And Daniel had it all.